Taeho stood in the center of the Great Hall. Around him, 847 different alien species sat in their seats. Some had tentacles, some had wings. Some looked like rocks that could think. But all of them were staring at him with the same look. They thought humans were weak. The Galactic Council had just voted. Again. For the third time in 3 years, they said no to humanity's request. Taeho had asked for simple rules to protect refugees. People who lost their homes when the void. Swarm attacked. People who had nowhere to go and nothing left. The vote was clear. 512 votes against. Only 335 votes for the protection rules. It was not enough. Counselor Vexithera of the hegemony smiled with her sharp teeth. "The humans are too soft," she said to the others. "They care too much about weak species. This is not how the galaxy works." Behind Vexithera, the Vorthak Empire delegates nodded their massive heads. They liked buying and selling people as slaves. Protection rules would hurt their business. The Crystalline Collective also voted no. They wanted to mine planets, even if people lived there. Dr. So-Jin watched from the visitor area above. She was humanity's top expert on alien life. She had studied every species in this room. She knew their languages, their cultures, their histories. Right now, she felt sick watching them celebrate. Taeho raised his hand. The hall became quiet. His voice was calm and clear when he spoke. "The Terran Federation thanks the Council for this vote," he said. "We now understand how this body works. We understand what matters to you. Trade routes matter more than lives. Profit matters more than protection. Power matters more than justice." Some aliens shifted in their seats. A few looked uncomfortable. Most just waited to hear what the human would say next. "Therefore," Taeho continued, "the Terran Federation withdraws from the Galactic Council. We leave immediately. We will not follow your treaties. We will not obey your laws. We will not recognize your authority over us." The hall exploded with noise. Aliens spoke in hundreds of different languages all at once. Some laughed. Some seemed angry. Most seemed relieved. Vexithera stood up and spoke loudly over the noise. "Good. Let the emotional humans leave. We do not need their weakness here. The galaxy will be better without them." Many aliens clapped and cheered. The Vorthak delegation roared their approval. The Crystalline Collective made sounds like breaking glass, which meant they were happy. Taeho did not seem upset by their reaction. He just nodded and walked toward the exit. As he passed the human delegation area, young diplomat Jin Woo fell into step beside him. "Sir," Jin Woo whispered, "are we really doing this? Are we really leaving?" Taeho did not slow down. "Yes, we are done here. But what about our allies? What about the species that voted with us? They made their choice. We respect that choice. Now we make ours." Jin Woo looked confused. "I don't understand. We've been part of this council for 200 years. We helped build it. We helped write the laws. Are we just giving up?" Taeho stopped walking. He turned to look at the young man. His eyes were calm but very serious. "Jin Woo, tell me something. When you were a child, did you ever play games with rules you did not like?" "Yes, sir. Sometimes." "What did you do?" Jin Woo thought for a moment. I stopped playing their game. I made my own rules." "Exactly." Taeho started walking again. "We tried to play by their rules for 2 centuries. We followed their laws. We respected their customs. We limited ourselves to what they thought was proper and safe. They reached the exit. Outside, human ships were already preparing to leave. The massive space station buzzed with activity as humans packed their belongings and shut down their offices. "Sir," Jin Woo said, "what happens now?" Dr. So-Jin joined them at the exit. She had heard the last part of their conversation. "Now we go home," she said, "and we stop pretending." "Pretending what?" Jin Woo asked. Taeho and So-Jin looked at each other. They seem to share some secret knowledge, pretending that we are just another species, Tejo said quietly. Pretending that we have the same limits as everyone else. Pretending that we need their permission to do what is right. Behind them, the council continued celebrating. They did not notice the strange look that passed between the human leaders. They did not see the small smile on Dr. So-jin's face. They did not hear the quiet confidence in Tejo's voice. Within 6 hours, every human had left the station. Their ships disappeared into hyperspace, heading back toward human territory. The council barely noticed. They were too busy planning how to divide up the trade routes that humans used to control. Vex Thara gave a speech about the new golden age that would begin without human interference. The Vorthak planned new slave raids. The Crystalline Collective marked new worlds for mining. None of them wondered why the humans had seemed so calm about leaving. None of them asked why humanity's greatest minds had been so quiet during the final vote. None of them noticed that human ships had not actually headed home. They had vanished into areas of space that no one else could track. In the months that followed, the galaxy would learn the answer to these questions. They would discover what humans had been hiding. They would understand why Tejo had not seemed angry or defeated. But for now, they celebrated. They thought they had won. They thought the weak, emotional humans were gone forever. They thought the galaxy belonged to the strong. They were wrong about everything. 6 months passed after the humans left the Galactic Council. At first, everything seemed wonderful for the other species. The Vorthak Empire wasted no time. They sent slave ships to worlds that humans used to protect. The raids were bigger and more brutal than ever before. Entire cities were emptied. Millions of people were taken to slave markets across the galaxy. The Crystalline Collective began their new mining operations. They picked planets where weak species lived and simply took what they wanted. If people got in the way, they were removed. The collective did not care if families were separated or if homes were destroyed. The hegemony passed new laws about genetic purity. They decided which species were allowed to exist and which were not. Species that looked too different or thought too differently were marked for elimination. Trade became much easier without human moral rules. Ships could carry anything they wanted. Weapons, drugs, slaves, stolen goods. Everything had a price, and everything could be sold. Captain Hyun-Soo commanded a merchant ship called the Lucky Dragon. He had worked in space for 20 years and had seen many changes. But the changes, after the humans left, were different. They were darker. His ship received emergency messages every day. Refugee fleets sent desperate calls for help. Pirates attacked civilian ships without fear of punishment. Entire star systems went quiet, their last messages filled with screaming. Hyun-Soo brought these messages to the Galactic Council. He begged them to help. The Council's response was always the same. These are non-priority administrative matters. We will review them when time permits. Time never permitted. On the mining world of Zerion 7, the Crystalline Collective's machines dug deep into the planet's core. The native Zerians had lived there for thousands of years. Their cities were built into the planet's crystal caves. Their entire culture was based on harmony with their world. The Collective gave them one day to leave. When the Zerians refused, the machines started digging anyway. The crystal caves collapsed. Ancient cities were destroyed in minutes. The Zerians who survived became refugees with nowhere to go. Similar stories came from hundreds of worlds. The strong took what they wanted. The weak suffered and died. The Galactic Council called it progress. Young Mai used to work for Council Intelligence. She quit 3 months after the humans left. She could not stand watching the reports and doing nothing about them. Now she worked alone, tracking data from across the galaxy. She still had access to many information networks. What she found in the data streams made her afraid. Human settlements were disappearing, not destroyed, disappeared. One day, the sensors showed normal human colonies with millions of people. The next day, the sensors showed nothing at all. At first, young Me thought it was equipment failure. She checked the sensor arrays. They worked perfectly. She checked the data transmission systems. They worked perfectly too. Then she noticed something stranger. Ships that entered former human space never came back. Not human ships, any ships. Explorers, traders, pirates, even military scouts. They went into human territory and vanished without sending any messages. Long-range sensors showed the same thing everywhere that humans used to live. Empty space. No planets, no ships, no energy signatures, nothing. Young Me tried to contact other intelligence analysts. Most would not talk to her. She was no longer official council personnel, but a few agreed to meet in secret. I've seen the same data, admitted Keth 9, a cybernetic analyst from the Tech Union. Human space is just gone. Like it never existed. That's impossible, said Zara Vell, a psychic investigator from the Mind Collective. You cannot just erase star systems. Matter cannot be destroyed like that. Can it be moved? Young Me asked. The others stared at her. What do you mean? Keth 9 asked. I mean, what if the humans did not disappear? What if they just went somewhere else? Somewhere we cannot see them? Zara Vell shook her head. Humans do not have that technology. No one does. Moving entire star systems is beyond any known science. Young Me showed them more data. Look at this. Energy readings from the border of human space. They're not normal. Space itself seems different there. Gravity works wrong. Time moves at different speeds. The three of them studied the information in silence. None of them could explain what they were seeing. There's something else, Young Me said quietly. The hegemony's Supreme Marshal Koreth has been telling everyone that humanity went extinct. He says they fled because some disaster was coming to their space. Do you believe that? Keth 9 asked. Young Mai looked at the data one more time. No, I think something else happened. I think the humans did something that we don't understand. Something that changed the rules. Far away, in the deepest parts of what used to be human space, something watched the galaxy. It saw the slave raids. It saw the mining operations. It saw the genocide and the suffering. It remembered voting for refugee protection. It remembered being ignored. It remembered being called weak and emotional. It was not angry. Anger was a human emotion, and it was no longer entirely human. It was something new. Something that existed between the spaces where reality touched itself. It was patient. It had learned patience from watching stars be born and die. It had learned stillness from the empty places between galaxies, but it had not forgotten justice. That was still human. That was still important. The galaxy celebrated its new freedom from human weakness. Trade profits reached new highs. Military expansion continued without anyone stopping it. The strong grew stronger. They did not know that something was watching them. They did not know that every act of cruelty was being recorded. They did not know that the universe itself was learning to judge them. They thought the humans were gone. They were very wrong. Captain Do Hyun had been a salvage operator for 15 years. He knew how to find valuable things in dangerous places. When the humans disappeared, he saw an opportunity. Human technology was always advanced. Their computers, their engines, their medical equipment. Everything was built better than what other species made. If Do Hyun could get into abandoned human space and take some of that technology, he could sell it for enough money to retire. His ship was called the Prosperity. It was old, but reliable. His crew was small, but experienced. Dr. Yoon Young was his science officer. She knew more about technology than anyone Do Hyun had ever met. Engineer Woo Jin could fix anything that broke. Navigator Hye Jin could find her way through the most dangerous parts of space. They approached the edge of what used to be human territory. Do Hyun expected to find warning beacons or patrol ships. Instead, He found nothing. Sensors show no activity, Hye-jin reported. No ships, no signals, no energy readings. That's impossible, Do-hyun said. There should be something. Humans had colonies everywhere in this sector. Dr. Yoon-young checked her instruments twice. The captain is right. According to our records, there should be 12 inhabited worlds. Within range. I'm not detecting any of them. Equipment failure? Woo-jin suggested. No, I've run full diagnostics. Everything works perfectly. Do-hyun made a decision. We go in, carefully. First sign of trouble, we leave. The Prosperity moved deeper into former human space. The stars looked normal. Space looked normal. But something felt wrong. Captain, Hye-jin said nervously, the navigation computer is acting strange. It keeps trying to plot courses to places that aren't there. What do you mean? I mean, it's showing planets and stations in locations where our sensors detect nothing. But the computer insists they exist. Dr. Yoon-young looked up from her console. I'm getting similar readings. My instruments show massive energy signatures all around us, but I can't see anything producing that energy. Do-hyun felt cold fear in his stomach. Should we turn back? Before anyone could answer, Hye-jin called out, Contact! There's a planet directly ahead. It just appeared. Through the main window, they could see a blue and green world. It looked exactly like the human. Colonies, Do-hyun remembered. Cities sparkled on the surface. Orbital stations drifted peacefully in space. Everything seemed normal. That planet wasn't there a minute ago, Woo-jin whispered. Sensors confirm, Dr. Yoon-young said. It's definitely there now, reading normal atmosphere, normal gravity, normal everything. But what? But the quantum signatures are wrong. The matter itself is different. Like someone took normal atoms and rearranged them into something that looks the same, but isn't. Do-hyun ordered his crew to land at the main city. The spaceport was exactly where it should be. Landing control. Systems guided them to a perfect landing pad. Everything worked normally. But when they stepped outside, they found a ghost town. The city was complete. Every building stood exactly where it belonged. Streets were clean, lights were on, but there were no people anywhere. Look at this, Dr. Yoon-young called from a nearby cafe. The coffee is still warm. Food is half eaten on the plates. But no one is here. They explored for hours. Every building was the same. Signs of recent life, but no actual life. Beds were unmade. Showers were still running. Computer screens showed work that had been interrupted in the middle. It's like everyone just vanished instantly, Woo-jin said. Dr. Yoon-young was scanning everything with her equipment. Captain, I need to show you something. The quantum structure of this entire city is wrong. Every atom has been modified. This isn't normal matter anymore. What does that mean? I don't know. I've never seen anything like it. It's as if someone rewrote the basic rules of physics for this place. They decided to leave. But when they tried to return to their ship, Hye-jin discovered a problem. The navigation computer can't plot a course out of here. Every time I try, it says our destination doesn't exist. That's impossible. We just came from there. I know, but according to the computer, there's nothing outside this star system, like the rest of the galaxy just stopped existing. Dr. Yoon-young checked her long-range sensors. She's right. I can't detect anything beyond this system. No stars, no space stations, nothing. Fear was turning into panic. Do-hyun tried to stay calm, but his hands were shaking. There has to be a way out. There has to be. That's when they saw the other ship. It was definitely human design, but unlike any human ship Do-hyun had ever seen, it moved wrong. Instead of flying in straight lines, it seemed to flow through space like liquid. It approached their landing pad without making any sound. 3 people came out of the strange ship. They looked human, but something was different about them. They moved too smoothly. Their eyes reflected light in ways that human eyes shouldn't. When they spoke, Their voices had harmonics that made Do-hyun's teeth ache. The leader was a man who introduced himself as Jae-min. "Welcome to New Terra," he said with a smile that was too perfect. "We don't get many visitors anymore." "We're salvage operators," Do-hyun said carefully. "We came looking for abandoned technology." "Abandoned?" Jae-min seemed amused. "Nothing here is abandoned. We're still here. We just changed." Dr. Yun-young stepped forward. "Changed how? What happened to this place?" "We stopped limiting ourselves," Jae-min said simply. "For centuries, we followed rules that other species thought were natural laws. We discovered they were just suggestions. I don't understand." Jae-min's too-perfect smile grew wider. "Matter, energy, space, time, these things can be rewritten if you know how. We learned how." "That's impossible," Dr. Yun-young protested. "Physics doesn't work that way. Physics works however we tell it to work. Here, at least." One of Jae-min's companions, a woman who might have been named Su-jin, spoke up. "You want to leave, don't you? You're afraid." Do-hyun nodded. He was too scared to lie. "We'll let you go," Jae-min said. "But first we need you to deliver a message." "To who?" "To the Galactic Council. Tell them that humanity remembers everything. Tell them we're no longer bound by the limitations they assumed were natural laws. Tell them the galaxy is about to change." Space around the Prosperity suddenly returned to normal. The stars reappeared. The navigation computer started working again. Dr. Yun-young's sensors detected the familiar energy signatures of known space. "Go. Now," Jae-min said. "While you still can." Do-hyun and his crew ran back to their ship. They took off as quickly as possible, racing away from the impossible planet. Behind them, New Terra faded from their sensors, as if it had never existed. But Jae-min's message burned in their minds, and they knew, with absolute certainty, that everything was about to change. The emergency session of the Galactic Council was called after Captain Do-hyun delivered his message. For the first time in 2 years, every species sent their highest representatives. The Great Hall buzzed with worried conversations. Councillor Vexithara no longer looked confident. The Vorthak Empire delegates whispered nervously among themselves. Even the crystalline collective seemed disturbed, their crystal bodies changing colors rapidly. "This is obviously nonsense," Supreme Marshal Koreth declared. "Humans cannot rewrite physics. No species can. These salvage operators are clearly suffering from space madness." But doubt was growing. Too many ships had vanished near human space. Too many long-range sensors showed impossible readings. Too many reports described things that should not exist. Then Sung-ho stepped forward. Nobody had paid attention to Sung-ho for 2 years. He was just another minor diplomat from a small trading world. He attended council sessions but rarely spoke. He voted on unimportant matters and filed boring reports. Now, he stood in the center of the hall, and something about him had changed. His eyes were too bright. His voice carried strange harmonics when he spoke. "Honored delegates," he said calmly. "I am Sung-ho, representing the Terran Federation." The hall erupted in chaos. Aliens shouted in dozens of languages. Security forces moved toward Sung-ho but stopped when he raised his hand. "I have been here for 2 years," he continued, as if nothing had happened. "Watching, learning, recording everything you have done since humanity withdrew from this council." Vexithara found her voice first. "Impossible. All humans left. We tracked—" "Your ships," Sung-ho smiled. "You tracked the ships we wanted you to track. You saw what we wanted you to see. Humans are very good at hiding when necessary." Supreme Marshal Koreth stood up, his massive form towering over the other delegates. "Arrest this spy. Execute him for infiltrating the council." "I am not hiding," Sung-ho said. "I am revealing. Today you will learn the truth about humanity. Today you will understand what you have awakened." The lights in the hall dimmed. A holographic projector activated in the center of the chamber. The image showed a human woman standing in what looked like a laboratory. "This is Dr. HFY," Sung-Ho announced. "She will explain what humanity has been doing while you celebrated our departure." Dr. HFY looked directly at the council delegates. Her appearance was strange. She seemed to exist in more dimensions than normal space allowed. Parts of her body flickered between solid matter and pure energy. "Greetings," she said. "I speak to you from what you used to call Earth. Though Earth no longer exists in the way you understand existence." The hologram shifted to show Earth's solar system. But it was wrong. Where Earth should have been, there was a construct of pure energy surrounding a black hole. The black hole was not destroying things. Instead, it seemed to be creating them. "For 3 centuries, Dr. HFY continued, humanity followed the rules of galactic civilization. We limited our research to what you considered safe. We restricted our technology to what you thought was possible. We bound ourselves with laws and treaties and moral codes." The image changed again. Now it showed human laboratories, but not like any laboratories the Council had ever seen. Scientists worked with equations that wrote themselves in the air, machines that seemed to be made of crystallized time, experiments that bent reality around themselves. "We did this because we believed in cooperation," Dr. HFY said. "We thought that by limiting ourselves, we could live in peace with other species. We thought that by following your rules, we could build a better galaxy together. But you rejected cooperation. You chose domination. You chose to use your power to hurt the weak instead of protect them. You chose to ignore suffering because it was profitable." The hologram showed recent events: Vorthak slave raids, crystalline mining operations that destroyed entire ecosystems, hegemony genocide programs. The council delegates watched their own cruelty displayed before them. "So we stopped limiting ourselves," Dr. HFY said simply. A new figure appeared in the hologram. It was Dr. Min-Ho, but like Dr. HFY, he seemed to exist in impossible ways. He stood in a place that was simultaneously a forest, a star, and a mathematical equation. "Our first discovery," Min-Ho explained, "was that the speed of light is not a limit. It's just a suggestion that most species choose to follow. When we stopped following it, faster-than-light travel became as simple as walking." The image showed human ships moving between stars instantly, not through hyperspace, but by simply deciding that distance was irrelevant. "Our second discovery was that matter and energy are more flexible than your physics textbooks claim. With the right knowledge, both can be reshaped at will." The delegates watched in horror as human scientists transformed asteroids into gardens, turned stars into useful tools, and created planets from pure thought. "Our third discovery was that time is not a river flowing in one direction. It's an ocean, and we learned to swim." The hologram showed humans moving backward and forward through time as easily as walking through a room. Past and future became just different locations to visit. "Our fourth discovery was that consciousness is not trapped inside individual minds. It can be shared, expanded, and merged with the fundamental forces of reality." Now the image showed the truth. Humanity had not disappeared. They had become something else. They existed as living equations that could rewrite the universe's basic programming. They were still human, but they were also the space between atoms, the force that held galaxies together, the intelligence that guided evolution. "We are still here," Dr. HFY said. "We are everywhere. We are the universe learning to think." A final figure appeared in the hologram. It was Bo-Ra, but she existed as pure information, a pattern of consciousness that spoke through quantum fluctuations. "You asked us to leave your council," Bo-Ra said. "We did. But we did not leave the galaxy. We became the galaxy. We are the space you fly through. We are the energy that powers your ships. We are the gravity that holds your worlds together. For 2 years we watched you, We recorded every cruelty. We noted every injustice. We cataloged every act of unnecessary suffering. The hologram showed a vast library of information, every slave taken, every world stripped of resources, every species marked for extinction, everything the Council had done since humanity left. Now, Boros said, it is time for corrections. The transmission ended. The hall was completely silent. Sung-Ho looked around at the terrified faces of the alien delegates. You have one choice, he said quietly. Change your ways willingly or have them changed for you. This is impossible, Vexathara whispered. Species cannot become gods. We are not gods, Sung-Ho replied. We are gardeners, and this galaxy has grown too many weeds. Outside the council station, reality began to shift. Space itself started to rewrite the rules that the strong had used to oppress the weak. The universe was learning justice, and it had very good teachers. The changes began immediately after Sung-Ho's revelation. Supreme Marshal Koreth ordered the entire hegemony fleet to attack human space. 1,000 warships, the most powerful military force in the galaxy, jumped to hyperspace with orders to destroy every trace of human existence. They never arrived at their destination. Instead, the fleet found itself in orbit around a beautiful garden world. Their weapons had been transformed into seeds. Their armor had become farming tools. Their warships had been converted into orbital greenhouses. The crews were unharmed but very confused. They stood on the bridges of ships that now grew flowers instead of firing missiles. Their communication systems worked, but only to send messages of peace and friendship. On the planet below, the species that the hegemony had marked for genocide lived in harmony. Their cities were rebuilt. Their dead had been restored to life. Their children played in forests that had grown from the metal of hegemony war machines. Koreth himself found that his voice could no longer speak words of hatred or violence. When he tried to order attacks, his mouth would only say things like, please, and thank you, and how can we help? The Vorthak Empire faced a different kind of correction. Their slave ships, traveling to raid another defenseless world, discovered that their cargo holds had been filled with educational materials. Their weapons had become musical instruments. Their chains had turned into art supplies. Most surprisingly, their slaves had become their teachers. The beings they had captured and tortured now possessed unlimited knowledge. They could answer any question, solve any problem, and create anything the Vorthak needed. But they would only use these abilities to help and educate, never to harm. The Vorthak quickly learned that cooperation was much more profitable than conquest. Their former slaves taught them sciences they had never imagined. Their empire grew richer and more advanced than ever before, but only through peaceful trade and mutual benefit. The crystalline collective experienced perhaps the strangest change of all. Their mining equipment had been transformed into restoration devices. Instead of stripping planets of resources, their machines now healed damaged worlds. Toxic waste became fertile soil. Polluted oceans became crystal clear. Extinct species returned to life. The collective found that restored planets were much more valuable than stripped ones. Healthy ecosystems produced resources continuously, while dead worlds produced nothing. Their profit margins increased dramatically as they learned to work with nature instead of against it. Young Mai watched these changes from her small apartment on a trading station. Her intelligence networks buzzed with reports of impossible events happening across the galaxy. Pirate fleets found their ships filled with medicine and food, which they could only deliver to those who needed it most. Corrupt politicians discovered they could only tell the truth. Weapons manufacturers found their factories now produced toys and medical equipment. Everywhere, those who used strength to hurt others found their strength redirected toward helping others. But the most dramatic change happened at the Galactic Council itself. The great station had been transformed into something beautiful. The cold metal walls were now living wood. The harsh artificial lights had become gentle sunshine that somehow worked in the vacuum of space. The delegate chambers had become a vast garden where representatives sat on comfortable grass instead of formal chairs. Councillor Vexithera tried to call for military action against humanity. Instead of her usual harsh voice, she found herself speaking in poetry about the beauty of cooperation. When she tried to vote for destructive policies, her hand would only vote for measures that protected and helped others. The council's new voting system was simple but effective. Delegates could only vote for policies that reduced suffering and increased happiness. Motions that would cause harm simply could not be entered into the system. Captain Hyun-soo received a message on the Lucky Dragon while making a supply run to a remote outpost. The message was from Kyung-soo, introducing himself as humanity's final ambassador to the galaxy. But Kyung-soo did not appear on a normal communication screen. Instead, he spoke directly through the ship's quantum field generators. His voice came from the space between atoms, from the energy that held the ship together. "Captain," Kyung-soo said, "humanity thanks you for carrying messages about the refugee crisis. Your compassion was noted and recorded. Where are you?" Hyun-soo asked, looking around his empty bridge. "I am everywhere that kindness is needed," Kyung-soo replied. "We all are. Humanity has become the universe's immune system. We identify problems and correct them. What about free will? What about choice? Choice remains, but the consequences of cruel choices have changed. Those who choose to harm others will find themselves unable to do so. Those who choose to help others will find their efforts multiplied beyond imagination." Hyun-soo thought about this. "So you've become judges?" "We have become gardeners," Kyung-soo corrected. "The galaxy is our garden. Every species is a different kind of flower. Some grow well in peaceful soil. Others require the harsh lessons of corrected consequences. We provide what each needs to flourish. On what used to be Earth, Haewon played in a garden that existed in 11 dimensions simultaneously. She was born after the transformation, so this reality was normal to her. She could see the quantum strings that connected all living things. She could hear the songs that stars sang to each other. She could touch the mathematical equations that made flowers grow. To her, the galaxy was a vast playground where every species was learning to be better than they used to be. She watched former enemies become friends. She saw weapons become tools of creation. She witnessed hate transform into understanding. Other children like her existed throughout human space, if human space could still be called that. They were human, but also something more. They were the next step in evolution, beings who existed simultaneously in physical reality and in the pure mathematics that controlled the universe. They played games that taught stars how to burn more efficiently. They painted pictures that became new planets. They told stories that rewrote the laws of physics in small, helpful ways. Far from Earth, in a location that existed between normal space and hyperspace, Daewon spoke with the voice of humanity's collective consciousness. He was all humans and no humans. He was the pattern of thought that connected every human mind across time and space. "The day we withdrew from your council," Daewon said to the galaxy itself, "was not the day we left the universe. It was the day we became it." His words echoed through quantum fields and gravitational waves. Every species heard them in their own languages, understood them in their own ways. "We offered you partnership. You chose dominance. We offered you wisdom. You chose ignorance. We offered you peace. You chose war. Now experience the universe as we design it." The message was not a threat. It was a promise. The universe had learned to think. And it thought that kindness was better than cruelty, that cooperation was better than conquest, that growth was better than destruction. The galaxy was still full of different species with different beliefs and different ways of life. But now it was impossible to use those differences as excuses for causing suffering. Wars ended not because they were forbidden, but because weapons could only be used to create rather than destroy. Slavery ended not because of laws, but because chains could only be used to connect people in friendship. Pollution ended not because of regulations, but because industrial processes could only make things cleaner and more beautiful. The strong were still strong, but their strength could only be used to protect the weak. The intelligent were still intelligent, but their knowledge could only be used to solve problems and create wonder. This was humanity's gift to the galaxy. Not conquest, not dominance, not even leadership. Just the simple, revolutionary idea that the universe could be a garden where every species had room to grow. And humanity, having become one with the fundamental forces of reality, made sure that garden would bloom forever.